Welcome to yet another podcast episode. This is podcast number 19. In this podcast, I'm going to talk about a few things, but first I want to start out with how everyone is struggling. How basically everyone is struggling, and you are not the only one that is struggling at all. You're not the only one. There's millions of people that are struggling. And they could be struggling similarly, somewhat similarly, worse. And, they're dealing with circumstances that, if you were to trade places, it still sucks because it's just on that circumstance. And it still sucks. Even if you were to trade, one inconvenience for another, it's like, it almost doesn't matter. But the point is, everyone is struggling. That's something I've come to terms with. And everyone is dealing with stuff that you personally don't want to deal with. Everyone almost thinks similarly when it comes to pointing out what sucks and what is unfair. That's something I've come to realize. And what that does in realizing that is it gives me the confidence, and it should give you the confidence as well, that you're not the only one. And so, you're mad about something in your own house, stressing out about all this. It could be that your neighbor right next door, maybe both neighbors, maybe a few people down the street are dealing with something that is stressing them out. You may be at a level 8 stressed out. There could be people that are level 6 to level 10, right around the ballpark as you. And all this has to do with the fact that life is not easy, and everyone is trying to have it good and easy, and everyone is trying to have the best day possible. I know that for a fact that everyone is trying to have the best day possible. How could you not? What's the point of having a bad day? But yeah. And I guess the question is, where does the struggle or sense of struggle comes from, typically? What does it have to do with, why do these struggles happen? And how do these struggles come to be over a course of time? Because, most struggles, if you could just look at the source, the origin, and trace it back to things, you'd see that it's just no surprise how things come to be. I guess we could just start talking about jobs. I'm just going to dive into this part of the podcast. When it comes to jobs, working is not easy. It's not easy at all. And, although jobs are beneficial to the economy and, gives people some money, it's still not a pleasant experience. Work, from my experience, I've worked in a variety of places over the years. There hasn't been one job where I liked. And I was just working because I have to. And I feel like that's what most people do. You work because you have to work. But jobs, typically don't pay good. And if you want a high-paying job, let's say with a degree, you're going to have to go through, well, first, a few years of college. So you're going to be, your head's going to be cracked doing that. You're going to be dealing with those 4 years. It's going to be much harder than high school. And there's money on the line. So it's not like it's a peace ride. I mean, you're putting money on the line. You're probably taking out a loan, and you're on the line. You're on the clock. You have to pass. So you're going to be dealing with getting your head cracked from the overloaded work you have to do, and the fact that you have to have the brain capacity to pass these tests. And to feel as if you're doing a lot and crunching numbers like crazy, to feel bad about yourself because you haven't passed the test, that's very defeating, in my opinion. It could have you feel defeated, because here you are attending college as a responsible person, doing what you must, and you're struggling because your brain is not able to get around this test. It's too much, or things are slipping, and it's not easy. And so you could see that other person next to you passing these things as if he or she is some brainiac. And you're going to want to be like them. They may not be rich, they may not be super successful or wealthy, but in that moment, you're going to wish, not that you were like them, but that you had their brain to be able to fly through this and not be struggling. Because if you're struggling in that scenario, I can guarantee the first thing you're thinking about is how much is it going to cost to retake a test. And if you're already paying a fortune, why in the world do you want to be in a situation where you're going to be paying more than the fortune? And so you see, just to enter a job that not only pays decent, but does more for you and gives you fun time with the money, it's just not easy. And that setup to me is not right. It's an imbalance. And first of all, not a lot of people, not everybody wants to go to college. College exists. College has been talked about for a long time. College is higher than high school. It's continued education. It's the quote introduction to high-paying jobs and the lifestyle. But it's not an easy ticket. And so, who is college best for? Based on my experience and just seeing how things move. Honestly, it's in your best interest, or should I say, college is best for people that are already wealthy or have wealthy parents, that already went through that and can manage to pay this. It's also for, the brainiac people that fly through things academically because, they're all prepped up. Their brain is just geared up on going. They probably don't play video games at all. They probably don't even drink or smoke anything. So they're just a bookworm ready to pass anything that's hard. And they pass it. They pass it with a smile. They pass it with flying colors. They pass it with little sleep. And not only that, more importantly, they pass it without much effort or stress. And if you're someone that is, and there's also scholarships, being able to go to college for free. So if you're someone that is not a bookworm, and you're someone that doesn't have the parents completely supplementing the funding to go to college, And if you are not someone that has scholarships, you're going to be someone that has to take out a loan if this is something you really want to do. And I want you to think about this. Think about this. Okay, this is talking about being human with money and reality and personal situation. Let's say you really want to get a car that you really want, no matter what it is. Maybe it may not be of the year, but maybe let's say a 2019 vehicle, whether it's a pickup truck or whatever, and you just want to get this car. Don't you normally, if you can't afford it, even with finance, don't you normally not get the car? Don't you normally just rather go to a lot and get something you can get for cash offhand for maybe way under $10,000? Isn't that what you normally do? If you can't afford a vacation, let's say for the family, and let's say for this whole package is going to cost maybe like a bit over $5,000 or maybe $5,000. If you can't afford it, don't you normally not do it and not spend that $5,000? You know, if there's a concert you want to go to and you have no money for it, don't you normally just don't go until you have the money? You know, if something's expensive at a store that looks overpriced, don't you normally go, OMG, that's a lot of money for this, and typically not get it? Because you feel that it's just too much money for what it is. And when you spend it, you know your money's gonna get cut from whatever you have. And typically you won't get that back. Even if you spend it and make that money back, you're only going to break even. And even if you break even and after that you manage to earn another portion of money that you spend on top of that, you broke even plus more, but you still don't get that money back. And what you spend to consume, that's it. That's it. So if anything, you'll manage to make more money in life, but you will always be that amount of money short. It's just a reality. So when it comes to college, I think the same way. But the thing about college is, unlike a car, college is much worse because you're on the line, putting your brain on the line, money and time, and you have to pass these tests. It's about passing the test. Attending, you can attend all you want and be this perfect attendee, and maybe just doing those group projects in class well. But if you're not passing those tests, nothing matters. And college is not cheap. I bet a lot of people wish that college only costs $5,000 to deal with. Assuming you're going to get a great degree. But no, it's 4 years. And you have to, for 4 years, you're stuck in that. You have to do it. And college for 4 years, it's going to cost you money that you probably never seen or had in your bank account. And it's going to cost money that is going to take you an extremely long time to ever accumulate in savings. So you have to take into account. So college just seems like a very imbalanced existence to take. It's bold, it's ambitious. You hear a lot of played out old record stories about, oh, well, if you go to college, you become somebody and you get your degree and blah, blah, blah. You get to do something, become somebody, and you'll always have your degree and blah, blah, blah. But that is a very ancient, played out story. If I can't afford it, I am not going to go. I'm smart enough to have acknowledged how much it cost, just like how you acknowledge the MSRP price of a car at a dealership. When you see that whopping $15,000 or whatever it is, and you're on a budget and you only have 10 G's for a car, I mean, you're not even going to think about trying to finance that car. You're just going to be like, whoa, screw that, right? So with college, it's just not affordable. And I'm surprised that a lot of people, when it comes to college, they don't think like that. They're taking a risk and a gamble. And college is not set up to the reality. College puts you at a burden. It's making you pay, and then it's up to you. It's up to your own brain capacity. It's up to your own ethics, your own personality, to be able to keep up with the random stuff they're going to throw at you, because you have no idea what college is going to throw at you. You have no idea how difficult the tests will be, the projects. You have no idea about, how much your life will get withered away. And if you're trying to have money while going to college, you have no idea about how difficult that is. On top of the work, so college is not aware of how the human body works, because you're going to be extremely stressed doing it. If you're not a bookworm, you're going to be struggling. If you're not funded through the rich parents, you're going to be screwed, and that's just how it is. So, and the only problem with college is how expensive it is. I mean, you can look at a million things about it, and that's the only thing that stands out. Because if college was free and the curriculum has not changed, it's still what it is, as if it was $50,000 or whatever, then you're going to feel much better dealing with it. I can guarantee it. Because if you fail or aren't doing as good, you just won't pass, and that's it. There's no worry about being burdened with money that you probably will never see in your bank account anytime soon. If it's $100,000, don't you wonder when you'll ever be able to see $100,000 in your savings account? What is it, 8 years later? You need it now. So a lot of people don't think about that. A lot of people take this risk and they passed. But that's them. That's another thing people don't realize. That's them. And when you're not them, no amount of advertising can push you to go to college. No amount of good word and someone at your ear telling you can have you go. You're not them. And it could also be at the same time that you're not them, you see that you cannot afford that. You cannot afford that, and you're smart enough that you can't afford it. And so, just like when you ignore a car that's too expensive and whatever, you just don't buy it. Now, isn't that a good practice? Because it's not about not taking risks, it's about circumstances. There comes a time where in reality it's just not the thing to do. It's just not it right now. With all they've said and all you heard, the circumstance will say, well, despite what you said, sorry, but I just can't afford it and don't want to do it. And it's just not my alley. And so just imagine getting whispered in the ear to go to college, to go to college. You attempt it and you're not doing good. And you're trying, but you're just not passing these tests. And you're struggling and managing the job sucks. Because it'd be stupid, in my opinion, to go to college and not go to work. Especially, if you're up in your 20s and whatever, or older. It's stupid to go to college and work at the same time. You're going to be so crapped up. And it makes me wonder, does college realize that you need to work while going to college? If you're a 30-something-year-old person, isn't it stupid to go to college knowing that you have no job at all? How are you going to go to college, pass these tests, do that overloaded work, and go to your job as if nothing and deal with that? Where's your fun time? What do you do? Nothing? It's a stupid scenario to be in. And most likely that person is just going to drop out. Or if they finish, they're going to finish with debt and stressed. And now they're going to have to look for a job. Now you're looking for a job. So it doesn't make sense. So that right there is part of the struggle. And another thing about jobs is almost every job, and now I'm talking about mainly jobs that you don't have to go to college for. There's millions and millions and millions of jobs, right? But almost all millions and millions of jobs are very lousy, annoying, stressful, pathetic little jobs that pay a pinch. And for the pinch that they pay you, they want you to be in there 40 hours a week trying to keep the business going. That doesn't make sense at all. Think about it. You're working 40 hours a week for a pinch. You're housed in that place for 8 hours. Your break is short, and there's people up your butt watching if you screw up. People whipping you if you're a little late, a minute late a few times. Oh, try not to be a minute late next time. To me, I never say that, in my opinion. Even if I was a business owner, I know for a fact those words will never come out of my mouth. Oh, you're a few minutes late all the time. What gives? I know for a fact that person's going to think, what's this person problem being uptight about a minute? I'm here, nothing's even started. You know what I'm saying? That is to the struggle. I mean, who cares about that? Oh, the minutes add up. Oh, who cares if the minutes add up? You're going to tell me that you're going to say someone has been 8 hours late because it's accumulated over the years? Because they're typically a minute late. Or 2 minutes? Like, that's dumb. And then you're going to be like, oh, well, you're going to rack it up as if they've always been late and never been doing what they're supposed to. I mean, that's dumb. But anyways, a lot of jobs are designed poorly. I've worked many jobs. I've seen many jobs. And, these business owners, shareholders, however this company got started and founded, yeah, it's very humbling. Good for them that they started a business. They did what they had to do, but they were not strategic or smart enough to create a job that doesn't feel like garbage when you go in and you don't feel robotic. Okay, these business people, I can almost guarantee, almost all these business people that have these jobs that aren't good are people that have never worked, people that have the silver spoon, and people that, if they did work, it wasn't for a long time. They may have done paper routes when they were young from 16, but it was only from like 16 to like 21 they worked. And then, they had their parents hook them up and all that happened. But most of these people have never worked. So when they start these businesses, I know for a fact that when they start these businesses, they're more happy of the fact that they're going to open their business and make whopping money. And you know what? When you're at that level, all you're doing is putting things together. You're putting things together to get your dream and business up and running. Good for you. That's what America's about. But now the business is up, and you have another sweatshop, trashy like business. Another business that still pays the minimum wage. And when it comes to the work process, you feel like a robot doing something standing for quite a while. And the money is still not good for what you're dealing with. I used to work at a job. It was Amazon as the, what do you call it? It was it was like line assembly, like something like that. And literally, this is Amazon, by the way. Everyone knows Amazon. Everyone knows it's a multi-billion or trillion-dollar company, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, when I'm there, I am standing in this line doing the same repetitive work until the night ends. And it gets dumber than that. They're saying that even if we finish early, which typically we tend to finish about an hour and a half to 2 hours early, they're saying even if we finish early, we still can't go home. And they're saying that even if we're finished early, we can't go to the lunchroom to just chill out until the time ends. So we still have to be there anyways. You have to deal with nonsense like that makes no sense. That makes you wonder, why are they making us not be able to go to the lunchroom? Why do we have to be on the floors if we're working, if we finished early and that's it? And so all these things stress you out. Because when it comes to logic, whoever made that little rule, in my opinion, must not work. They must not be doing physical work. And that's why they come up with these rules. So when a business gets started, these business people don't think about that. They're just happy that their little business is up and rolling, something to talk about. You're making sales and you're having it good. All you're doing is managing this, checking out, and you go home. But you don't realize, they don't realize, or if you're one of them, you don't realize that you're not them, you're not the people you're hiring to do the work on the floor. Matter of fact, I bet you would rather not engage with anything that the employees are doing on the floor. I can guarantee it. You're going to be like, oh, my business is up. And you're going to be happy you're not doing what they're doing. You're going to be happy they're not at the printing press, printing all these shirts and doing that whole process of getting a little dirty, having to wear a smock. You're going to be happy you're not doing that. You're going to be happy that you have your business. And so nothing changes for that person. And that person is sweating, trying to make that stuff good. They're probably rushing to get those numbers in because it's probably an expectation on how much you're supposed to do. And so that poor soul is busting their butt to do it. And they're busting their butt, and at the end of the week, when they get their paycheck, they're still struggling. And that sucks. And so, here you are as a business owner giving someone a fraction of money, a pinch of money, and you're making much more than them. And, you know, you may not even be at the job for 8 hours a day like them. You're doing something else. Or if you are someone that's constantly there, you're not doing the work on the floor. And the work on the floor is the real work. So I personally like to believe that most of these people that make these businesses are people that are trying to not do any kind of physical work, labor, because to their mind, it just sucks to do work. And what they rather do is they rather have something they own, make money, sit at a computer, have meetings, and move money around, and that's it. And that's what they call their stress. And that's what it is. I know for a fact it has to be. Because look at it, it's just funny how almost every job feels like a little sweatshop. Very strict. You have to do that for the money. And most jobs don't offer part-time flexibility. So when you're going for a job, it's going to be a locked in 40 hours a week to get what? $600? I mean, after taxes, that's like almost close to 500. If you're making $800 after taxes, that's like $600. Meanwhile, what did you do? Meanwhile, you were busting your butt, producing 1,000 of these things, taking 1,000 calls for the business. It's like you're putting all your energy and time and almost getting a little ripped off money-wise to help another person's business thrive. While that person, that business owner, that higher up, that, that has anything to do with this, they don't do any kind of physical work at all. And so let me dive into also, CEOs and the chain of supervisor managers. Overall, if you were to watch what these people do, let's say you follow them for a month, what they do at work, quote, work, you're going to see that these people do not do any physical labor at all, but earning money. So right there, that's what it is. You see the higher up always, even the CEO, they don't do any physical work. They rather not do physical work. The supervisor most likely took that job. Let's say they stepped up from, just floor employee doing the thing, and they applied to be a manager, supervisor, whatever it is. Most likely, and I can guarantee this almost everybody would take that job because they see that what they're doing on the floor sucks. The hustle sucks. The pay sucks. A lot sucks. You're adhering to all these criteria and all these little rules. You're getting fed up of the manager, and you're just tired of sweating doing this dumb thing. And so what are you going to do? You're going to apply for a supervisor job, thinking, I can escape this nonsense. I can at least be at a computer and do something else. And that to me is being someone that is in a flight or fight mode, looking for relief. People are looking for relief. And that's why typically people would apply for that. Even I've considered it. It's like, man, at least if I was a manager, I could it'd be managing, but at least I know I'm not going to be the one doing this kind of loaded work, dealing with this, dealing with that. And it's almost like trying to hide from working because you want a job that doesn't feel like working. That's why a lot of people want their passion to come true. You know, that whole expression, when you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like work. Well, that's what it is in that scenario. Most people want a job that doesn't feel like work because they're not, A, they're not doing much of anything, or B, they're not much working at all, or C, they're not doing any kind of physical labor. They're no longer the one having to wear the boots with the safety glasses and having to be lifting stuff and just doing that whole hustle. You know, they don't want to deal with that mess in the trucks anymore. And so their only option is almost like being in self-defense, trying to figure out what to do. You think to yourself, the supervisor job, it pays more, and I'm just going to be in the computer all day like this guy does. And you take it. And so that's why I believe that the reason why there's rules that suck at a job and rules that seem to kind of like defy logic a bit and common sense, it comes from people that don't work physically, that don't do any physical labor at all. It comes from people that are trying to make money, riding it easy, and not do physical labor, like everyone is getting paid little. And so when that happens, you get this person in their office doing their thing. They start feeling good about themselves. Oh, I'm a manager. I'm here. I finally made it. A little high status, more pay, blah, blah, blah. I'm the one now. And after a while, since you're always riding your job, sitting in your chair all day, barely ever moving, burning calories, you start making decisions that are hypocritical. Because since you're not dealing with that, you're just shooting out ideas. Since you're not dealing with that anymore. But think about this. If you were working on the floor like them, let's say you were just working like, you weren't supervisor, you're doing this. Whatever happened to those ideas that you had while working there? When knowing that the work sucks, doing a certain process sucks. Let's say you're lifting a bunch of packages all the time, and you always thought this and that sucked. Maybe you thought the manager sucked. And while you were working, you always thought about better ideas that the lane business has that you don't like, that you're dealing with. And now you're a supervisor. Now you're just thinking, oh, I'm out of that nonsense. And so now what ends up happening is because you're not working anymore, you forget. And even if you once did it, you still forget. You're barking orders, you're being nonsensical. You are, kind of defying logic to get something done a bit in common sense. You're whining and bitching about something not getting done. It's like, hey, the only reason your flimsy rules come about and all that nagging and whining is because you don't work anymore. You're not, since you're not out here like everyone, and you feel like you have a chill life and chill job, that's why you're being irrational. That's why you're being weird. That's why you're giving people a hard time. You're telling people to hustle, to move, blah, blah, blah. You're clapping your hands like, come on, people. But that's not working. That's it. That's a position, but it's not working. And you look like an a-hole. You look like a hypocrite that doesn't do nothing. You're just trying to herd sheeps that they're not sheep. They're human beings. And you took a job to escape labor and have it easy for more pay. But you're forgetting that now you're just like them. And it's very counterintuitive. It's very backwards to be someone that wants to start a business, be a high up in a business, CEO, whatever. and you have yet another common business. You're creating jobs, but your job is going to be amongst other jobs that suck. You offer no flexibility, the pay's poor, the raises barely ever come, insurance is too expensive, too much nagging at you about things, dealing with finicky remarks from people that they're not on the floor working, but are complaining. Oh, and then they tell you, oh, well, I know what it's like. I used to do it. Well, you don't do it. It has been an X amount of years you don't do this. So don't talk to me about the past. It's now. You want to trade places now and do this? The answer is going to be no. You're probably going to get flashbacks of how much the job sucks and probably walk off in silence. So that's something that aids to the struggle. That's how, and there's billions of people, and that's part of it. The job psychology is a very big deal. And another topic is almost every business seems to be operating as if they're at the brink. Even Amazon, all these high tech companies, Apple, Twitter, and I can go on. Apparently, these are multi-billion-dollar companies that's been around. And they're struggling. They're struggling so much they have to lay off like 500 people, 1,000 people. It makes you wonder, if they were to laying people off, whatever, what is a company going to do with $2 million of letting people go? How is $2 million a lot of money for a company that's a multi-billion-dollar company that everyone knows and buys and pays heavy duty prices for? So that's something that should give you the confidence. Is not only is everyone struggling and everyone struggles, but businesses that appear to be great, that you've always known, are struggling. And not just because of current times with pandemic and trying to get the economy back and running, but even before that, one little issue happens, and apparently that business is at the brink of collapse in 6 months, even though it's been operating for 20 years. It makes me wonder. I'm no accountant, but it makes me wonder. It's like, are you open? Have you been open for like 20, 30 years for nothing? That you had this little downfall going on, and now you're operating at the brink of collapse? How have you been operating? You've been operating at the brink of collapse the whole time? You've been operating off a string for 30 years, and now there's an issue, and you're laying people off like crazy and doing all this stuff? That makes no sense to me. And so that's what gives me the confidence, is knowing that, well, if I'm struggling, a multi-billion-dollar company struggling, that's been operating for 20 or 30 years. Okay, so that should give you the confidence as well. It should make you wonder, how does that make sense? If you've been operating a multi-billion-dollar company for 30 years, shouldn't you be having like trillions of dollars? Couldn't you have figured out a way to revamp things a bit over the years? But no, you kept it the same. It's like, well, what are you doing? How are you poorly enhancing? If you're a business person, how is it that, oh, well, we would like to make the enhancements, but we don't have the money, and you're 20 years in, how do you still not have the money to give the place a new look or make the process easier for people? It's an excuse coming from a business that would tend to tell people when they're late, oh, you're just coming up with excuses. Oh, that's an excuse for them. That's their excuse. See, everyone has excuses, even these big businesses. They have excuses for when they don't pay you good, an excuse for when they were wrong, So that should also give you the confidence. Everyone has excuses too. You're going to be dealing with hypocrites. So there's that. And I guess I'll talk about investing. This is just another segment within the segment. I'm currently investing in stocks and crypto. And to be honest, I like it and don't. And it's very straightforward with investing. You invest when it's low, you wait for it to get high, or you try to ride the wave to earn money. And that's great and all, but if you ever think about the people that are doing really well with this and making a lot of money, typically these are people that have a lot of money to begin with. Because if you think about it, where's someone going to get $2,000 to just throw into a brokerage account and they're new at investing? No one does that. If someone just talks about investing, no one just hops on and say, oh, that sounds great. Oh, let me get $2,000 and put in a brokerage account and start. So typically with investing, you're dealing with people that somehow are able to accumulate a large amount of money and invest because they have a lot and they're pretty much almost playing with the money. And that's how they're able to somewhat be successful with it. Or it could be, wealthy parents of a kid, and this kid has an allowance of like $100,000 a year. Well, this kid doesn't work at all. He has nothing to do. He's on the computer all day. Guess what? He's going to be into crypto and trading. And what did this kid do? Well, he invests $10,000 or $20,000. Oh, his money's up. Well, guess what? Guess why? Because he put in $10,000, $20,000 into a brokerage account. He has so much money that him putting money in that brokerage account is like, it's like monopoly money to him or her. So you shouldn't feel, in my opinion, you shouldn't feel less confident about the fact that you are not making a large amount of money with investing, because it's not easy to cough up the money and start playing around with this, because a lot can go wrong and you can lose money. So that should give you the confidence, is knowing that you don't have special circumstances like other people. You don't have those rich parents giving you money to blow and you just willy-nilly invest large amounts of money and make returns. That person doesn't even need to work, but are investing and talking about how much money they make. They could have just not invested and talked about how much money they have already. And it's like, well, if you have wealthy parents, why invest? Why want even more money than that? Why not just, at that point, just ride a part-time job while you have almost $1 million in the bank and accumulate up? It's like, so that should give you the confidence that, if you're investing, you're not making much, you're wondering how come you're not making six figures overnight. It's because not everyone has a bunch of money to throw. And you got to question, how did they even get that money? Did they take out a loan? And do you want to be someone that takes out a loan? I mean, that seems a little ridiculous. Normally people take out a loan for more serious reasons, but you're going to take out a loan for investing? And you don't have to be that person at all. You don't have to be anybody else at all with what they do, with their methods and how they did it. That's another key point I want to talk about is everyone's different. You're you, I'm me. You're doing this, you're doing that. Well, good for you. Continue to do that. As far as me, I'm me. What you told me might have sounded good, but I still determine if it's something I want to do. And if I don't, that's my problem. And it's not my problem, that's just my choice. And so I have to figure out what else to do. I have circumstances I'm playing under that you may not know about. So I don't just hop onto things quickly. I don't just throw money out like that instantly. So you're happy over there, but you're living a circumstantial life. I'm living a circumstantial life. You find it easy? Yeah, well, it is easy, whatever. But if I don't have the money, I just don't. So I'm obviously not going to be at that level. But should investing be the end all to things? No. I mean, what if you still want to have a business one day? What if what if you want to just have something going for yourself? You're not going to have it if you're investing. Everything is about circumstances. So I'm making a bit of money here and there. Not a lot, but it's something. And that's just my life. That's my piece of the bubble of the life. And so you shouldn't feel discouraged about the fact that someone's way out there and you're way here. You shouldn't even worry about that because that's their life. You could just ignore them. You don't want to be like them. I don't want to be like them. I want the money, but I don't want to be like them. I don't want to move how they do. I don't want to talk how they talk. I don't want to think how they think. I want to be myself and determine what I want to do. And whatever strategies you have, I have to determine if I like that or if I can come up with something better. And ultimately, you decide. So that should give you the confidence in knowing that you don't have to be like anybody. And everybody's on a circumstantial time. Every life is on the circumstances. You have certain circumstances, I have mine. You're doing supposedly well and have a lot going because of your circumstances. And the circumstances you took is not what I care about to do. If you went to the military and you're making great money right now because of your experience and you've been there for like over 10 years, that's you. You're making great money, you're doing this and that. I'm not going to be like, oh, I wish I went to the military to make a lot of money. Dude, that's hard to do. That's a pain in the butt. It's not for everybody, just like college. So for the people that feel proud, that's you. I don't care about joining. If you're proud, I'm going to be like, man, let me enlist right now. That's dumb. I'm gonna go in and feel like crap. And most likely, you're going to be so injured that you might end up feeling a certain way about what you're doing. So there it is right there. What else is there? Yeah, there's a lot to deal with. There's just a lot to deal with. And that's that's the main reason, in my opinion, why life feels difficult. You want to do something special in your life. You want to earn money, but you realize that all the options out there to earn money plain suck. And that you take these jobs because you have to, and you need something. And so you take these jobs, but once you take these jobs, you're locked in it, doing the do, and it just sucks. And so part of the struggle comes from the fact that I'm just going to say 100% of the jobs suck. Okay, I'm going to say, well, 98% of jobs suck. And what's left are gems, job gems, that is a job that you pretty much are writing, barely doing anything, probably just on a computer chilling, just wasting hours doing nothing practically, and you're getting paid decent. And from my experience, I know for a fact that's how many people rather make a living when it comes to jobs. When it comes to a job you applied for to deal with for whatever hours. That's the conclusion I've scientifically have come to myself. Is that when it comes to earning money, people rather have a job that feels easy, where they feel like they're at home and they're not really doing much because there isn't much action, there isn't much back-breaking scenarios. You probably did one or two things, but are just riding the night, basically. In my opinion, it makes sense that you want a job like that. You know, because here you are, let's say you're getting paid $18 in that job where you're barely doing anything. There's another job where someone is hustling and bustling and coming out with body aches, and they're getting paid $18 an hour. So you're both getting paid the same, but one person's having an easy time because of their job structure, and their job is able to afford that sweet life with work. And that creates a huge imbalance. That's why there's a lot of job hopping. That's why there's a lot of quitting. That's why there's a lot of potential getting fired, because you get weighed down by that. You know, when you are getting paid $18 an hour and you're barely doing anything at a job, there's a good chance you're always going to be there on time. And since there's nothing much to slack on, you don't have to worry about anyone being up your butt. So that's how that person's able to do the job, feel better about themselves, versus someone who's getting paid 18, but their job is pushing them, throwing them around here, throwing them around there. They have to hustle. They're being complained at as to why they weren't able to do this in time. And they're getting frustrated of that chit chatter in their ear. And that's a huge imbalance in life. A huge, huge imbalance. And that's what life is for the most part. From what I've seen, there's a huge imbalance. And so now there's you. You know what you know, you took all this into account. And so what about you now? Well, something that can give you the confidence that I think you should know is there's billions of products, billions of people, billions of eyes and ears, billions of businesses, billions of restaurants, billions of YouTube content, all this stuff. And so you just have to realize that whatever you can crap out, I use that term, crap out. Whatever you can crap out, you have to feel the confidence in knowing that whatever you dish out matters. And that you're going to be one amongst the millions. But you're better off being yet another one amongst the millions in business and branding, yet another, because that's what there is a lot of. So you're better off knowing that. And you have to understand, there's a lot of people struggling, going back to that. And so mainly, get into conclusions now. Having the confidence is a big key. Because having the confidence takes into account what you know, and knowing that what you know is I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. You get the confidence from knowing that things isn't what it is as far as difficulty goes. Like just like in knowing that other people are struggling, knowing that another person through that same thing similarly, it gives you the confidence knowing that, well, it's not just you. And if this happens, it's not a new thing. If you're getting BS, it's not a new thing. It's just part of the thing. And others have gotten BS. So that gives you the confidence knowing that it's not just you. And it's just it's the error that comes about. And so you just have to deal with that, and then that's it. But having the confidence to be able to do certain things and going about it in a way where you feel comfortable is something that takes time to develop. And so it's important to have a confidence with whatever it is you're doing. And just literally dish out, crap it out, and present it. That's what all these businesses are doing. A business starts today, it's just going to start presenting itself to you right now, in hopes you see it and attend it and know about it. So you have to have that confidence in knowing that you're not the only one struggling, and things are possible for you. And you have to work on fixing the imbalance in life. It's good to be a problem solver. You probably heard that before. Like in business, problem solving is the key, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah. Okay. Knowing what you know and knowing what you've always known throughout your work experiences, knowing how you've dealt with many crappy leaders, crappy bosses, knowing how you've dealt with many crappy jobs, and you got to see how much a lot sucks. This is the time for you to not continue to feed that and not be a hypocrite. This is the time for you to not be a hypocrite and not continue to feed that. You can't go backwards on yourself with all you've known and felt, your emotions and your frustrations, and start to just continue to feed the nonsense. So you have to work on fixing as much imbalance as possible, because when there's an imbalance, you're struggling or another person's struggling while something is not aware. And why live life with an imbalance? There could just not be the imbalance. That's the main reason is the struggle. Like the imbalance of what you do for the pay doesn't add up. The imbalance of, even though there's billions of jobs, rent so expensive, doesn't matter what job you work at. That's an imbalance. How does that make sense? Especially coming from the government. Aren't they so smart? How is it if there's almost billions of houses in the United States and apartments and billions of jobs, and no matter which job you hop to, you still can't afford to live in one of these nice places. You have to select bottom of the barrel stuff. Well, if that's the case, you're going to have billions of vacant houses, vacant apartments. That's obviously how the prices go up. It's just that things are so imbalanced that people on one end are trying to balance things out themselves, and so they jack up prices. But anyways, you have to be someone that is aware of the detailed imbalances and figure out, how is it that you could just no longer have imbalances in these pockets of life? Because a lot of people, when you talk to them about solutions and way outs and answers, a lot of people are just so stuck in their ways. Your idea can sound good, but they still don't do it. And especially at a job, at a business, a career, You may be coming up with multi-billion-dollar suggestions, hypothetically speaking. Um, but it sounds great, but you're going to hear the same old broken record story like, well, that's a great idea, but I don't think we can afford that. It's going to cost the company money, blah, blah, blah. It's like, haven't you been operating as a multi-billion-dollar company for 30 years? And a great suggestion comes about that makes everybody's life better, that cures the imbalance. And now you're telling me that it can't happen. What's the point of being in business if when you hear a good idea, you're not implementing it? What do you come up with? Bad ideas to implement? So right there, you see there's also an imbalance. It's like you have to solve these problems. And so, like I said before, it's good to just focus on yourself and have the confidence knowing that things are so crappy that it's in your best interest to literally come up with anything for yourself at home and literally ride with it. Like, let's say you want to get into comic book writing. This is just a far off example. In my opinion, if that's something you've always wanted to do or even thinking about, you might as well just get the pen and paper and pencils and ink and erasers and literally start drawing your heart away, until you come up with something. Even a 10-page comic book, trying to sell that, you know what I'm saying? Because that is a way to do something about the imbalances in life. You can also feel an imbalance of satisfaction and feeling like you're doing anything for yourself. There's that imbalance of, well, you're putting more energy for your job than you are for yourself passionately. Well, you need to fix that imbalance and give yourself after work, be able to put more far out effort into your own personal thing. You do 100% of your job, blah blah blah. But to cure the imbalance, you're supposed to do 200% for yourself. Out of your job, and even while at your job and thinking about stuff you're going to do, just give yourself even a 200% effort in thinking. So you're reserving more top-notch energy and ethic for your own thing. And that's how you start beginning to cure the imbalances. And just being aware that you as a person, when it comes to the things you have to offer, you have to know that it's going to work. It's going to work because there's so much stuff out there that you could just be yet another piece that gets accepted. Just yet another piece, Unfortunately, you may not be the only one or the first one, but at least you can start becoming at least yet another piece of what already has been existing. And that helps cure the imbalances. So there it is right there. In conclusion, it's just the imbalances left and right, the imbalance in thinking, the imbalance in rationale, the hypocrites. Hypocrites create a lot of imbalances and create struggles and create stress. So one thing I like to end off is saying that never be like the person you never appreciated. Never be like the person you never liked. Never be like the person who lashed out and was an a-hole. You never appreciated that. Well, never be that. Because that also helps the imbalance. It helps prevent a generation of feeding more to this and that kind of stuff existing. Because just because things exist and have been going on for a long time doesn't mean it should remain. Like, if you can come up with something better, it should be implemented. There's no other way I can say it. So never be like that. You've had rough supervisors that were a-holes that were just, I don't know what they were wrong. They was always up your butt. Never be like them. Never. No one ever said you have to be like them. That's not the way. It was wrong. It wasn't the way. It wasn't humane. So don't be like them ever. That's evolution right there. You see what sucked. You don't want to be that. You already experienced it. You already experimented with it. You already got to see that kind of personality is not. It's just not good for you or society. You already deemed that as terrible. Well, never be that. It shouldn't be the time for you to be that. So that takes even more work on you now. Now you have more responsibility because now you're not trying to be that. You're trying to be something better. So you're on a big mission to cure the imbalances. This is your time to try to do something about the nonsense. Nothing should be stuck in its way that's horrible. I feel like that comes from weak people that don't want to do the extra to try to make things better. If your business can't afford it to make changes or whatever, and that's a great idea, man, look for ways today to make that happen. It sounded good. It'd be amazing. You look around, it's just obvious. And that if it were you, it'd be great for you. Figure out a way to make it happen. Don't not make it happen, go another 20 years with a great idea, 20 years, 40 years delayed. Because that just creates the imbalance so deep. Another thing is try to make sense in life. Try to make a lot of sense. Logical sense and reasonable sense. Not to make sense, to be right, or be better than someone, or win. But try to make sense because you're a humble person that has a brain. You see what it is, and you're trying to make sense in a moment. And pay attention to the people that don't seem to acknowledge that you make sense. You have to ignore those people as best as possible because you shouldn't get your mind manipulated and thinking that you don't make sense or that what you have to say doesn't jive, doesn't connect. You don't want to feel like the things that your little brain came up with that God gave you can't come up with stuff that's useful because of how someone's denying it or this manipulation going on. Because that's not good in my opinion. That's not good at all. And so, that's something you have to think about. Try to make sense for your life in a positive way and just think positive about it. If you want to have whatever business, just know that there's going to be specific things you have to do that make sense to do. If you want to have your own shop for cars, detailing, it only makes sense for you to start right now and doing something local with friends. Make those few under the table bucks. Accumulate those bucks while working your job to finally maybe get a loan. It only makes sense. So it's good to make sense and stick to the lane. Stick to the lane because it makes sense. What's the point of trying to pursue this car detailing if you're going off to the side to do a book writing and you're giving like both 50%? It's like, well, what is it? The book writing? Is it both? How do you do this? So you gotta make sense. Is the book thing working more for you now than that idea of the car detailing? Well, if it is, maybe it's time to pack up that idea and say goodbye to it, because this book writing is taking off more. It's unprecedented, but it's what it is. And so it only makes sense to just disregard that outer body thing. But maybe it just makes sense to, with that money from book writing, for you to finally have your shop. Maybe you're just someone that wants it both. Maybe you want 3 things in life. Maybe you want it all a bit. Well, if that's the case, then you're going to have to still try to make sense for that. Well, how are you going to do that? You want to be Mr. or Mrs. does a lot and does this and that. Well, you really have to figure out how in the world you're going to do that. And you have to also understand that it could just not be necessary. That's something you have to take into account. You could be running like a headless chicken trying to figure out what to do, and you have like 4 things in mind. But it could just mean, little do you know, that it's unnecessary to try to pursue all those 4 things at once. So again, back to the imbalance. You don't want that kind of imbalance. You want a balance that is straightforward, doing something for you. Life is about balancing out things. You're in a time constraint. Well, that's an imbalance. How can you get that time constraint and not feel the imbalance? Well, maybe you could have done something earlier. Maybe you can make a phone call to alleviate the time constraint. And now you're back. Now the imbalance got eliminated. Now there's time to think. Now there's time to maybe use the bathroom before you go and not go while freaking in a complete disaster. You know what I'm saying? So look around, man. Look around. You're not an idiot, right? You see what it is. You see how hard things are. Well, how do you help the imbalance? Nothing should be much of a surprise. You know what sucks. You know what you personally wouldn't want to be doing or dealing with. Well, why create the imbalance for others to deal with? And I'm talking about in business. I'm talking about just the way of life, the way it is, with jobs and the economy. It's a horrible imbalance. Even right now with the inflation, that's the biggest imbalance in history right now. Not the biggest in history as far as inflation, but I'm talking about it's just the fact that it's an imbalance. It's an imbalance at a bigger scale. If you have an imbalance, well, there's an economic imbalance. So that should also give you the confidence. You may think that you're doing bad or not doing well, or you think you're not good enough, but it just turns out you just have to realize that there's just a huge imbalance that's always been existing, and everyone's trying to cure and alleviate that imbalance to shoot up. So if you feel like you're struggling and doing a lot, that's how it is, unfortunately, because there's nothing fortunate about things being hard. That's just how it is, unfortunately. So just like everybody else, you're trying to do something. You're trying to hack away at something to see what gives. So that should give you the confidence in knowing that you're not the only one. There's a multi-billion-dollar business that's struggling. Hey, man, you're just like them. But now is your time to figure things out, take into account all the BS, all you never liked, and start manifesting, doing things that answers to the nonsense, that alleviates. And that's, in my opinion, that's going to work wonders. Even if you don't get paid for it, it's going to work wonders. And it can at some point pay. You can at least help in the evolution. The next generation, the next evolution of people, because of what you thought of, is now going to be better for anybody that has to deal with whatever it is because of what you thought of, because you weren't a hypocrite. And so that is what I like to end the podcast on. Don't worry. Try to think positive and just know, just take into account everything that was said today in this podcast. And just know you're not the only one. And just know that there is BS left and right, nonsense left and right. And you're just trying to, as best as possible, trying to overcome things. So that's where I'll end it off. Hopefully everyone has a good day and stay tuned for the next podcast. And goodbye.